Into the second hour of our morning edition, and it's good to have you with us on this Monday morning. It might be a frustrating, might be an infuriating morning for you, depending on what's going on the roads out there. But again, we urge you to exercise restraint, keep your cool, don't lose your cool in a situation like this, however stressful it might be. But please, at the end of the day, we can only try our best to cope with the situations that we are faced with. We'll take a break for the news and come back into the second hour of morning edition on this Monday. 5 minutes after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago, as we shift our discussion this morning to the whole question of integrity and the Integrity Commission and the role of the Integrity Commission, because we have the winners of the Integrity Commission's tertiary level debates competition with us this morning. They were able to beat the traffic and whatever roadblocks are in the way. More importantly, from the finals on Wednesday, they were able to beat the Caribbean Nazarene Theological College, CNTC, in the finals after getting past the University of the West Indies in the semi-finals. So congratulations to our winners. They are here with us this morning, all smiling. Close to me we have Akeela Marin, we have Megan Gomez, and Shiv Sawh, who argued a number of issues very convincingly enough. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
Tell us about this experience. Let me start with you first of all, Akeela. Give us a sense as to your own experience of the debates, and first of all, in the final against CNTC, what was the issue being debated?
The issue being debated was, be it resolved, the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index is a valid indicator of our national reality, and we argued in the negative.
So basically you won out saying that the Transparency International indicator is not valid.
Yes. It can't be a valid indicator of our national reality.
Give me a sense as to what would have been the crux of the argument as to why it would not have been valid.
The crux of the argument is how the index is formed. They use 12 different indicators that they pull together, indicators that are good on their own, but when you pull them together to find a mean and then you rank countries, it doesn't make sense. And so you have 8 other countries ranking 85th with Trinidad and Tobago, but on their corruption barometer, they don't investigate corruption in Trinidad and Tobago to see how it affects persons in the society. So it can't really be a valid indicator. It's like taking a lot of random liquids, mixing it together and saying, here, you can have this. It won't work. It just can't work.
Sounds like a carnival Friday night where you some random liquids that you mix and you never know what could happen. But Megan Gomez, give me a sense of what level of preparation did you all have to go through in making sure that you had all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed for a debate, semi-finals into the final? I know on the Wednesday you were telling us the semi-finals and the final were on the same day.
Yeah.
So how much preparation did you all have to get involved in?
It was extremely extensive. I'm talking, we pulled maybe 9-10 hour shifts at our school, and a lot of going over information, making sure that we've researched everything on our part and on the opponent's part, and making sure that we had all examples politically here. In Trinidad, we had international examples as well, and just going over, speaking to one another, them using the podiums and getting comfortable with that kind of thing.
And of course you have to be prepared for both sides of the story,
yes,
because you could be either a proponent of a cause or being against a cause, so therefore you had to ensure that you were prepared on both sides. Did that almost double up on the amount of work that you had to do?
It did, because you had to anticipate what they were going to say. We didn't want to get caught off guard. So we tried to think of, this is what we're going to say, this is what the other colleges might say, or the other university might say. And it was a lot of work to kind of get through both sides, but we ended up doing pretty well.
and Shiv, obviously you did very well, you won. But at the end of the day as well, it's not just having the information, but how you present it, how you rebut, how you challenge. And in that sense, was it an element of the training as well, for you to argue something convincingly? Like you might get a very good debater actually arguing that the West Indies are an outstanding cricket team and might actually sound convincing, even though it makes no sense.
Well, one of the census competitions was the semi-finals against the University of the West Indies, and in that we had to debate the licensing authority. Is it a help or a hindrance? Now, we had to take the affirmative, saying that it was a help. And, a lot of people have their general ideas about that organization. So we had to research it to the point and actually start to believe the stuff that you're saying, because you can't go to a debate with any sense of doubt on the topic that you're speaking about. So, a lot of the training went on. We had to look at the opposite. We had to look at what we supported and find the balance in the middle where we could say, all right, I honestly believe what I'm saying is true and right. My opponent will say, what he wants, but he's just a dissenting voice to the truth that I speak. So we came strong with
It's kind of like preparation for the political hustling.
Very much so, very much so. It had a lot of political feel to it, but we kept the dog and cat and pipe and thing out of the
Very, very sensitive.
Yes.
What benefit do you think that you would have gained personally, Akeela Marin, from being involved in this debate? Again, winning is fantastic, but what do you think it has allowed you to develop as far as your knowledge base, your debating skills, your ability to advocate a particular cause? How do you think it's helped you?
For me, I would say that it makes me feel a sense of urgency to be more involved in things that's happening in the country and even in the region as well, because you realize that these are serious issues and I have a voice that could be heard. I could make a difference. I could have an impact on what's taking place. So it makes me feel that now that this is over, what's the next step to help advocate change, to raise issues, to bring awareness to things that's taking place in our society?
And some will say, Megan, this is where the disappointment will start, because it's one thing to talk, and we are known in Trinidad and Tobago as a culture of old talkers, so we're very good at that. But do you think that an experience like this on part of a winning team will actually, I know empower is an easy phrase to use, will actually empower you to be able to use that advocacy and that ability to argue something to translate that into action?
Definitely. I definitely think so, because it wasn't just that the Integrity Commission put forth motions like honesty is the best policy. It was stuff dealing with Trinidad and dealing with life in Trinidad, rampant white-collar crime, the licensing authority, our CPI, and getting in depth with those things and learning how to argue about those things and getting more information on those things in general. It will really, really help us, I think, in the future. Looking into other news articles and other issues that happen in the Caribbean. We won't just take it at face value.
What program are you pursuing at
Literature
and
communication.
You going into law by any chance?
No.
Okay. That's really Shiv, if you don't mind my asking as well. What program are you
Well,
working?
I'm doing a BA in mass communication, as Akeela is also pursuing the same degree. It's something that I had a passion for a long time, for a very long time, and this was an opportunity to get in front of an audience. Also, I mean, this opportunity had to be in front of the camera also is huge for us, you know. But the competition itself, the debate competition, the standard was very high. Martin Daly, who was one of the senior counsel, Martin Daly, who was one of the judges, actually mentioned it in his article yesterday in the Express. And he said the debate, especially between UA and COSTAATT, brought water to his eyes when he was listening to us debate. It was an opportunity for a lot of young persons to deal with issues that usually young persons tend to avoid, or people think that we don't take on seriously enough. And this opportunity has led us to, I mean, the word empower, but also, you know, to look at the world differently and to look at how we're being viewed in the world. Because the last one, the Corruption Perception Index, we honestly didn't know much about it. We did it in the research. We came up with the points that, you know, this is how the world views us. And do we view ourselves that way?
How much of the entire thing, let me bring it back to Akeela. How much of do you attribute the victory to substance as against presentation? Because I know it might be a nice balance, but when you look at it overall, I'm sure you would have very, very powerful material to argue your case. But how much of it was about presentation and a convincing presentation of your argument?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that 40% of the markings on the score sheet was about your presentation. And when a debate got very tight and the adjudicators made their comments after, they said that when it came down to it, when you had two teams that gave good information, that your style of presentation is what would have given you a notch above the other team. So your presentation had a lot to do with it as well.
And as far as that is concerned, did you all do like rehearsals? Did you all trade off against one another, argue different points in preparing for all of this?
We did, to an extent. We would have to present to our coaches and our lecturers, heads of departments and whatnot, and in terms of arguing against each other, not so much of that. We sat down and did a general of these are the points and what are our arguments against it, but not really arguing against each other. But we prepared in terms of giving our presentation to an audience before we got there.
Was there any point along the way, Megan Gomez, where you said either in the semi-finals or the final itself that you say, oh shucks, we're in trouble here? I think we need to kind of regain some lost ground and maybe fight fire with fire or something like that?
There was a point, just briefly, because we knew we were going to come up against UE, and that was going to be a really, really hard fight. And there was a point that I thought, can we do this? But I was so confident that we had a different way of looking at things. We didn't just have statistics. We had really good quotes. We had really good, deliveries and personal stories. So we had the emotion, we had the information, you had the statistics and everything. And I think that encompassed a really good argument for us. So I wasn't too worried in the end.
Before we conclude, Shiv, you were shaking your head vigorously but at the suggestion that there was a point where we say, oh gosh, we're going to lose this one.
Well, yes, the semi-final, which was against University of West Indies, came off just like a final because it was the tightest of the battles during the entire debate competition. And there was a point where we structured it in a way that I would start off as the affirmative, and Akeela took both the the rebuttal and the summation. And when we started to hear UE comments, they came with stuff that we prepared for, but they had a slightly different angle. What we trumped them in, I believe Senior Counsel Daly mentioned that in his thing, is that we put in a lot of cultural references, the personal stories, and we just had that little bit of an edge, but it was really, really close. Really close.
Well, congratulations to you all once again. It's sort of like having two plates of pilau and they put some extra pepper in it to prevail. So congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Akeela Marin, Megan Gomez and Shiv Sawh. Congratulations on your triumph on behalf of COSTAATT, winning over the Caribbean Nazarene College in the final and UE in the semi-finals. And let's hope that all of this idea of debating really takes root, and it has had its time previously in Trinidad and Tobago, that it can really flourish and allow young people the opportunity to be far more active and far more involved in our contemporary issues beyond talking about dog, cat and pipe. We'll be back right after this.